Okay, so I've talked about a ton of babysitters on this channel, but the one babysitter that I did not talk about probably caused the most chaos. And on top of that, she was really sus. So today's story is going to be a really wild one. And honestly, if you guys haven't pressed that like button and subscribe, I highly advise you guys do it because it makes the channel grow and makes me realize how much I love you guys. Seriously, just click the subscribe button. You're dumb if you don't. But other than that, let's just jump into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to another insane video. So today's video all starts back when I was just a teenager. And what age? Well, I was 15. Now you guys are probably wondering, wait, you're 15 years old and you had a babysitter? Yes. And the reason for that is because I was a pretty naughty kid growing up. Like I would always go out and do the devil's tango. And well, let's just say that ended up getting me in trouble with my parents a lot of the time. So obviously I remember one time my parents came up to me and they told me that they were going on vacation. My parents would always, you know, go out and have a good time and stuff, and we'll always went on vacation. Why? Well, because my family just loves each other so much to the point where they want to keep showing their love in other places. Kind of a weird flex, I know, but mom, dad, I love you and you love me, and you guys hopefully still do love me after this happened. Anyways, I remember when I was 15, I was basically kind of just hanging out, doing my own thing. You know, I would play video games, I would go out and meet women, but once again, my parents came up to me and said, "We're going on a little vacation. Don't worry where we're going. We left you with a babysitter. Is that okay?" And me, obviously, I was like, bruh, I'm 15. I don't need a babysitter. When I told my parents that, they obviously did not care. They're like, "No, you need to learn how to be responsible." I am responsible. "No, you're not. You keep hanging out with these women that make you cause very bad problems with yourself. Doing all these women will never do any good for you." Little do they know, I make money off literally telling these stories, so yay. I don't even know what to say there, but anyways, going on with the story. I remember from there, I was basically just trying to be like, you know, persistent on showing them that I was responsible enough. But obviously when the day came that they had to leave, they ended up telling me that the babysitter was coming at 5:30 and I was upset. Obviously I didn't know who the babysitter was, but I just went up to my room and decided not to say anything. I didn't care. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stay up here and just relax. Now this is the part of the story where things get a little interesting. Anyways, I remember the doorbell rang and I went downstairs and I ended up opening the front door. When I opened it, there was a girl that was there and she was wearing, well, something that an average babysitter wouldn't. The reason I say this is because most babysitters would wear clothes that make them comfortable and they can, you know, lounge around as the kid is doing whatever the hell they want to do. But this babysitter was wearing a full-on dress. She was wearing like this really black, sleek dress and I was like, are you at the wrong house? "Oh, I'm the babysitter. I'm just here to take care of you." "What are you up to?" "I'm just upstairs playing video games." "Okay, are you the one that I'm taking care of? I was told there's only one kid." No, you're watching over me. My parents just don't trust me. It's a long story, but yeah, just come in. The living room's just there. You can just chill." She ends up walking in with her high heels on and ends up basically going to my living room and sitting down. Now, the whole time in my mind, I was thinking, why is this babysitter wearing a dress? This makes no sense. Is she trying to subdue me of all things? It wouldn't be the first time if you guys are the people that watch the channel regularly. I remember I ended up basically, like, you know, going in the kitchen, kind of like staring at her, wondering why she was wearing a dress. And to be honest, she was really attractive. And I remember as I kept staring at her, the babysitter obviously realized that I was watching her more than she was getting paid to watch me. So at this point, she ended up standing up and walking over to me saying, "Bubba, right?" "Yeah, what's up?" "I'm just curious, is everything okay? You seem a little off. Honestly, like, are you sick?" "Am I sick?" "No, I'm not sick. Why?" Honestly, I think you're getting a temperature. Here, let me feel." She ends up putting her hand on my forehead and says, "Honestly, yeah, I don't think you're feeling well." "I'm pretty sure I'm fine." "No, I gotta take you upstairs." She ends up grabbing me by the wrist and dragging me upstairs saying, "You gotta follow me." And when we went upstairs to my room, she instantly ends up putting me in bed and makes me basically go to sleep. By the way, it was only like 7:30. So obviously I wasn't gonna go to bed. I'm a 15-year-old that likes to go out party and do the devil's tango. So obviously at that point, I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna lay down. Maybe I deserve a nap. You know what I mean? So I end up laying down and I'm just laying down thinking this babysitter's up to something. It's kind of weird how, you know, she just wants me to go to bed so quick. But then after a while, I remember I ended up just getting up and just sitting down and playing my Xbox with my headset on. And with my headset, I ended up hearing weird noises. Not coming from the video game that I was playing, because obviously Call of Duty has like the same sounds over and over of bombs, you know, guns and shooting. This was a different sound. And this sound I actually recognized because it was my front door opening. When my front door opened, I was super weirded out and I was like, wait, is someone here? Is it my parents? So instantly I ended up basically getting out of my room and running straight to the front door. And when I went to the front door, I saw my babysitter already opened it for a guy. Now me, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's the pizza guy because he was holding a pizza. But no, he wasn't the pizza guy. He was my babysitter's boyfriend. What, you guys thought I was gonna get the devil's tango this video? No, she was, but with a different man. And obviously the only person allowed to do the devil's tango in this house was me. and my parents, obviously, but you know what I mean. Going on though, I remember I was freaking out. I'm like, what are you doing here? And this guy ends up walking up to me saying, oh, it's okay, little man, don't worry, I'm just here to watch over your babysitter. Wait, so he's watching over my babysitter and the babysitter's watching over me? What is this? What? I remember I ended up panicking and I was so confused, and honestly it got to the point where I ran upstairs and I decided to go tell my mom. But obviously as I was walking up the stairs, the babysitter saw that I pulled out my phone and she said, no, wait, don't tell your parents, please don't tell your parents don't know about this. Well, they're gonna find out. What do you mean? No, they're not. We're not gonna do anything, I promise. Just be cool for once. Be cool. Now when someone challenges my coolness, obviously I decided to play cool. So what I ended up saying to her was, okay, well, like, just don't do anything weird, okay? Like, he can stay, but just don't be weird. They ended up both agreeing, and I went back up to my room and I ended up putting on my headset and playing video games. Niggas probably thought that was it, right? They ended up just, you know, hanging out and stuff. No, they were doing a little bit more than just hanging out, because I remember as I was playing my video games, like half an hour later, I ended up hearing the TV beyond super loud. And I'm talking loud as if like we were in a movie theater loud. And at that point, I knew what that meant. I was 15. I'm not a dumb kid. Like nowadays, I'm not gonna lie to you, kids are smarter than the average person. Like we know when something sus is going on. Hell, that's probably why you're clicking on this video, because you guys understand the sus. So I remember basically I ended up getting off my headset. I ended up going downstairs and I'm like sneaking into, you know, my living room, seeing what's going on. And right at that moment, right as I turn the corner going into my living room, I see this girl getting absolutely ranched into her. And I'm like, what? And then instantly the guy looks at me saying, oh, and he ends up like doing the devil's creep right in front of me. That was the first time I saw another man's eggplant that wasn't my own. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was disgusted. I got so disgusted to the point where I ended up telling him to leave. I ended up basically taking a photo and saying, if he doesn't leave right now, I'm sending this to my parents. And instantly from there, he got up and ended up leaving. So you guys thought that was it, right? He left, problem solved. No, this is where the story gets, well, I guess more in my direction, I should say. Because from there, I remember he was like really upset, and the girl that was babysitting me was just stressing out. She didn't want to get ratted out. She didn't want me to be a snitch. And obviously, I wasn't going to be a snitch. So what I decided to do was tell her, I'm not going to tell my parents this, but like, you got to do something for me. She ends up saying like, oh, like, I can make you food. I can give you money. I ended up looking at her saying, do you really think I need that? And that's when she decided to go on her knees. And, you know, I would say the rest, but obviously, it's too sus and YouTube may demonetize this video, but I think you guys get where I was going with this. I ended up basically putting back my mark on the house, where I was the only one that could do the devil's tango. And that's exactly what happened. It wasn't blackmail, I'm gonna say, because either way, I was never gonna show my parents. And obviously, I deleted the photo right after I took it. I'm gonna be for real with you guys, but she didn't know that at the time, so it is what it is. Anyways, one thing led to another. She ended up basically, you know, telling me that, you know, my eggplant was bigger than her boyfriend's, and, you know, it's just a bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be said. And all I'm gonna say is that this guy ended up having the most sussest babysitter become his sus babysitter, or I was the babysitter technically in that moment, but you know what, it's whatever. Anyways guys, that is basically it for today's amazing story. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel, but just wait, before we actually end the video, join the Discord server. I have a Discord server that I want all of you guys to hang out in and tell me your crazy stories that I could maybe tell on this channel. So click in the description down below for it, and like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out guys. I remember my babysitter ends up taking me to the bathroom and literally goes on her knees, looks straight into my eyes and says, Baba, if you think you're as freaky as me, do it then, right now. Wait, what do you want me to do? Oh, I think you know what I want, Baba. What? And then what ended up happening next, I gotta say, must have been extremely illegal. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another embarrassing, I gotta say, crazy story. Now, today's story all takes place back when I was in high school, and this was actually my final year of high school. Yeah, my grade 12 year. Now, you guys are probably wondering, how in the world did I end up with a babysitter in my grade 12 year? Well, let me explain. In my grade 12 year, graduation was coming up. And honestly, graduation's such a big deal to me and my parents that I remember I started to stress out a lot. Because throughout my high school years, I was always exploring, doing crazy things, and saying yes to the most bizarre of adventures I would have, which to be fair, a lot of them are told on this channel. And well, it never actually led me to actually focusing on my actual schoolwork and things that are more important. Like, no joke, if I had an opportunity to hang out with a girl or finish my science project, I'd probably end up going out with that girl and being late and thinking last minute what to do for a science project of the day that was due. I've had a lot of these moments, and honestly, it led to me actually getting a massive phone call to my parents when I got home one day in my grade 12 year. Because I remember one day when I entered inside my house, I ended up up hearing my mom on the phone. And when I went to the living room to see what was going on, I ended up seeing my mom staring at me dead in the eyes as I walked in there. And she looks at me, covers the phone real quick, and says, Baba, after I'm done with this phone call, I need to talk to you. Okay, is what I said to her. And I remember she ends up continuing her phone call. Now, I didn't understand what was going on. And honestly, I was stressing out like crazy. No joke, I was so stressed out from what was going on that I guess part of me already knew that it was about me failing basically almost 3 of my classes. But anyways, I remember I went upstairs to my room and I turned on my Xbox and started playing Call of Duty. And as I was playing Call of Duty, like 20 minutes later, my mom ends up barging into my room saying, Baba, turn off your dumb video games. She ends up turning off my Xbox and looks at me and says, Baba, I need to understand. Why are you failing your classes? Where are you going in school? Why are you skipping class? Mom, I've been busy. Busy with what? Your job is literally just to go to school and come back. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, I understand that, Mom. It's just I've been like, you know, distracted. Distracted with what? You're a 17-year-old boy in your graduation year. You have nothing to be distracted about, is what she kept saying to me. And honestly, I didn't know what to say back to her. I started to stress out, and honestly, I ended up looking at her saying, Mom, listen, I promise I'll focus more on my schoolwork and I will graduate this year, okay? No, you have to graduate this year, okay? No more funny business. And that's when my mom ends up leaving my room and slamming the door shut. Now, I thought that was all that was gonna happen, but no, things got a lot worse, because I remember when I went downstairs for dinner, I ended up sitting down with my family, and my family all looked at me knowing that my mom was really upset at me for failing most of my classes. And as dinner continued, no joke, things just kept getting more awkward and awkward, to the point where my dad ends up saying, so Baba, I don't know how to tell you this, but me and your mom were talking, and we know what's going on at school, and if I'm going to be honest with you, you are not coming to the family vacation next week. Wait, what? What do you mean I'm not going to the family vacation? Well, Baba, you're not focusing on school, and I'd rather you graduate than come with us on vacation. What? But you guys are going to be gone like all weekend. Like, I wanted to go. Well, you should have thought of that when you're failing your classes and going on these silly adventures. Like, what are you? Diego the Explorer? I remember my siblings started laughing, and no joke, I just kept getting more upset, to the point where I actually even stood up and went straight up to my bedroom. I went up to my bedroom, slammed my door shut, and I actually started opening my textbooks to see if I could at least do something to get ahead. But then I remember after dinner ended downstairs, my mom ends up coming upstairs to my room, and she looks at me and says, Baba, can I talk to you? I thought you said everything you need to say downstairs, Mom. No. We need to talk about what's going to happen this weekend. Yeah, I know. I'm not going. No, Baba. Not only are you not going, but we're having a babysitter take care of you. At that moment, my eyes opened wide, and I remember looking at my mom going, what? You're telling me that I'm gonna have a babysitter and I'm almost 18? Yeah, that's what happens when you don't pay attention to school. Going on these silly adventures as if you're Diego the Explorer. Mom, enough with Diego the Explorer, okay? I get it. But you cannot give me a babysitter. I remember I kept yelling this at her, and my dad ends up coming in intervening. And obviously, things got a bit more heated, but I'm not gonna say any more other than my mom and dad ended up getting me a babysitter while I was 17 years old. But what ends up happening next, well, I think this is the part that everyone's been waiting for. Because I remember the next day was a Friday, and I ended up going to school super upset, and the whole day I couldn't stop thinking about how my parents were getting me a babysitter. And I remember every class that I went to, my teachers ended up handing me extra assignments I could do so I could make sure I graduate for my grade 12 year. And as I was picking up these assignments and finally got home, I closed the door, went up straight to my room, and started basically using the internet to basically answer all the dumb questions that the homework has for me. But then that's when the doorbell rang. And I remember when the doorbell rang, I went downstairs, I opened the door, and that's when I ended up seeing my babysitter. Now, this babysitter, she looked actually pretty normal. I'm not gonna lie, like, she didn't seem like anyone out of the ordinary. But then I remember when she walked in, she looks at me and says, aren't you like too old to be babysat? Yeah, I know, I am, but honestly, you're just here to make sure I do my homework and not go on some crazy adventures. Crazy adventures? What are you, Dora the Explorer? Bro, I don't know why everyone was talking about Dora the Explorer. To be honest, I think Dora the Explorer, the movie, was coming around this time, so everyone kept making the joke about it, even to the point where this babysitter was making jokes about it. But going on, I remember I ended up basically ignoring the babysitter, and I went up straight to my room and sat down and started doing my homework. But then this babysitter had different plans of her own, where I remember she ended up just sitting in the living room, turning on the TV, and just watching some random shows on Netflix. And then one thing led to another. I remember as I was doing my homework, I ended up basically pausing my music, and that's when I heard what she was watching. And no, she wasn't watching no ordinary TV shows like Dora the Explorer. She was actually watching something else that had a lot of really sus noises. That's when I ended up standing up and going down the stairs, and I looked and saw that she was watching a movie that had something really disgusting on it. Now, I'm gonna say this only once, and YouTube, please do not demonetize me, because I swear this is all for educational purposes. But basically, this show that she was watching had someone getting a golden shower. Now, if you guys don't know what that is, I cannot say
anything more than that, so good luck and figure it out on your own. But I remember when I was watching this, I ended up walking up to her saying, yo, what are you watching on my TV? Yo, turn that off. Aren't you like supposed to be like going upstairs and doing homework? Yeah, but I'm not gonna let you watch that on the TV. It's gonna be saved and my parents are gonna think I watched it. So like, don't your parents think you're a freak already? Like, aren't you in high school? Yeah, I'm in high school, but I'm not like a weirdo. Oh, so you're not a freak then, is what she says to me, kind of flirtatiously. That's when I looked at her and said, what? No, I'm just not weird. And that's when she kept getting closer and closer to me saying, honestly, how close are you to becoming 18? At that moment, I looked at her and I stepped one step back and I'm like, yo, you need to chill out. And the words that came out of her mouth next were really, really weird because she ended up saying to me, oh, so you're not a freak then. You're just a basic vanilla boy. Basic vanilla boy? What? Do you know who you're talking to? At that moment, I started pulling ego a little bit because to be fair, my high school years were literally all about me doing the Devil's Tango. And all the crazy adventures I've had were literally about me doing the Devil's Tango. So I have no idea what this girl was trying to yap about, but I'm gonna be so for real here. She had no right to say that I wasn't a freak. And when I started to tell her that, she ended up basically grabbing me by my hand and running me up the stairs towards my bathroom that was down the hallway from my room. And when she brought me in there, she went on her knees and said, okay, Bubba, let's see how much of a freak you are. Do it. Wait, what? What do you want me to do? Come on, Bubba, give it to me. Give you what? At that moment, she grabbed my pants, and that's when I ended up pushing her off me and went straight to my room and locking my door. I locked it, and that's when this babysitter at first went totally silent. But then 3 seconds later, slam, slam, slam. She started slamming my door like crazy. I started to panic, and then after a while of the babysitter just yelling, oh, I knew you're not a freak. I knew you couldn't do it to me. Seriously, whip it out for me, Bubba. I want to see it. And that's when I knew this babysitter was not only a freak, but she wanted way too much. I remember I ended up hiding in my room for like 20 more minutes afterwards, and she ended up going back downstairs watching her TV show. And my thought was, you know what? I need to focus on school so I can make sure I graduated. Luckily, I did actually end up graduating, which here's a photo of my graduation if you haven't noticed already. And yeah, honestly, I gotta say, I'm really happy that this babysitter ended up keeping to herself after, but never again will I expect my parents to get me another babysitter. And nor did they ever after that because, well, I became an adult. But if you guys think this story is totally fake and you guys think I'm crazy, then fall for more embarrassing stories just like this one. Peace out, guys.
I remember when I went downstairs, I ended up walking up to my babysitter and I saw she had her finger up her nose and then she ended up scratching her peach with it. Like, ew. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome back to a super embarrassing story. So this story takes place back in my grade 5 year. So I was in elementary school and I was just a basic kid, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I did not know any better than the average child. The only thing I cared about back when I was in grade 5 was tech decks, video games, and also probably Pokemon. I love Pokemon and to this day I still do. But one thing I will say is that one thing I hated was that I was a major introvert, meaning that I would never be able to really go out and talk to people. Hell, I was even nervous to go and buy a pizza one time. Like, I could not talk to anybody, and I always felt like I was really, really awkward. Obviously, throughout middle school, I started learning how to not be, but especially in grade 5, honestly, I was just not good with interacting or basically confront someone in any way. But I remember one time I was walking home from my elementary school after my classes were done, and I basically started heading home. When I finally got home, I saw my parents were looking at me, and one of my parents ended up walking up to me, which was my mother, and said, oh, Baba, so we're gonna be leaving for a couple days. We're gonna give you a babysitter, so do not worry, everything will be okay. Where are you guys going? Oh, we're going to quickly go visit your auntie in the States, so you do your thing here. Don't worry, the babysitter will be here any minute, but we have to go now, okay? I left some grilled cheese sandwich for you at the kitchen. Okay, is what I said, and right away my parents ended up leaving. Obviously at first I was really nervous about being home alone, but at the same time, like, it didn't seem that much of a difference since I wouldn't interact with my parents anyway, even if they were home. So I remember I ended up just going straight up to my room and started playing video games. Obviously in grade 5 you don't really get any crazy homework, so you know, I just ended up sitting on my Xbox playing video games the entire time and pretending that everything was okay, until out of nowhere I remember the doorbell rang and I ended up hearing someone at my door. Now once again, I was a major introvert, like to the point where I was scared of everything. I was even afraid of my own shadow. So when I heard the doorbell rang, I remember I was super nervous to go basically answer the door, that I ended up going onto my balcony and looking down at my front door to see who it was. When I looked down, I saw that there was a girl in like a crop top. She was like a basic girl, and I remember I saw that there was already a stain on her shirt, and I'm not gonna lie to you, she looked disgusting. Anyways, going on with the story, I remember I basically ended up looking down and she looked up right away and saw me. She ended up saying, hi, you must be Bubba. Can you come get the door? I mean, I can. Okay, well, can you? I remember at that moment, I felt like it was a really awkward situation. So I remember I ended up basically going off my balcony, sprinting straight to the front door, and I let her in. When I let her in, I remember she looks over at me and she started smiling at me. And when I saw her smile, I am not joking, she had the most yellow teeth ever. Like, her teeth were more yellow than Big Bird. Like, it was ultimately disgusting. And I remember I kept looking at her thinking, how in the world did my parents find this babysitter? I remember she ends up coming in and she ends up basically, like, you know, introducing herself and basically telling me how we're gonna have a great time and just, you know, the basic rundown of how the night's gonna go. Obviously for me, I ended up just, you know, ignoring her somewhat. Obviously this wasn't my first babysitter ever, but I will say that, you know, I just ended up just pretending I knew what she was saying, shaking my head, and I went straight back upstairs. When I went back upstairs, I remember I ended up going straight to my Xbox and I started playing Xbox again. But 5 minutes later, she ended up coming up to my room, and out of nowhere, even on the stairwell, I ended up hearing like a little fart sound, and I was like, wait a second, what was that? And then I ended up seeing my babysitter walk into the room and say, oh, hey, Bubba. So I was just wondering, I'm a little hungry. Are you hungry? No, my mom gave me food before I left. Oh, okay. Well, I'm hungry. So is there anything for me to eat in the kitchen? I mean, you can just help yourself, is what I said. And I remember she went straight downstairs and basically started doing her own thing. To be honest, I don't know what she did because I was upstairs playing Xbox, but I remember 20 minutes went by and I ended up basically getting actually hungry. I don't know why in grade 5 I would eat a lot. To be honest, I was a bit overweight back when I was in grade 5. But anyways, afterwards, I ended up going downstairs, and when I started to head downstairs, I turned the corner and instantly I ended up seeing that this babysitter was leaning back on a chair in the dining room table with her feet kicked up onto the table with her toes out, and she was eating crackers and ketchup together. Now listen, crackers and cheese, that makes sense, you know, cheese and crackers, that's fine, but ketchup and crackers? Like, are you joking, bro? That's disgusting. I remember at that moment I looked at her and I basically looked at her really weird, and she looked at me saying, oh, you must be hungry. Here, do you want a cracker and ketchup? I'm good, thanks, is what I told her. And I remember I basically ended up walking away and went to the living room to watch TV. I remember after a while, I actually started starving even more and more, to the point where I ended up basically texting my parents that I was starving and that this babysitter cannot cook for the life of her. My parents ended up texting me, oh, Bubba, well, we left some cash for you upstairs under daddy's pillow. Go upstairs and get some money. So I remember I ended up sprinting upstairs and went downstairs, and I remember I basically ended up walking up to my babysitter saying, I was just wondering, is it cool if we order a pizza? I'm not paying for a pizza. Oh, no, it's okay. My mom gave me money to pay for it. Is it cool if we ordered a pizza? Yeah, sure, just order it. I was hoping you would order it, if that's okay. The reason I said this was because I was really nervous back then. I was really scared to basically call literally anyone. Yes, I had a phone, but it was only to call my parents. And to be fair, those were the only 2 numbers that were ever saved on my phone until obviously middle school. That's when I started pulling girls. But, you know, I was just extremely nervous. I remember this girl ends up grabbing her phone and she ends up calling the pizza place, orders us a pizza, except this pizza was the most disgusting pizza ever. She ended up getting sardines on the pizza and then pineapples, and on top of that, she ended up getting olives on top of it. At that moment, I slammed my head up against the wall, and I just knew like I was not gonna eat that night, and I was just really upset. So what I decided to do is basically go into my kitchen cabinet, and I ended up grabbing a loaf of bread, and I ate that for the rest of the night. I remember 40 minutes went by, and I ended up hearing the doorbell ring, and obviously it was the pizza guy, and I knew it was because I could smell the pizza coming from my window. And this babysitter ends up grabbing the pizza from the front door and calling me downstairs to eat the pizza with her. Now me, obviously, I wasn't hungry anymore since I ate a loaf of bread, so I ended up going downstairs and I just sat with her basically. And I remember when this babysitter ended up opening up the pizza box, I am not joking, she ended up basically scratching her peach and literally was picking her nose, and then she went for the pizza slice. Like, bro, I didn't want to be anywhere near that pizza after I witnessed that. I was so disgusted, and I looked at her saying, are you not gonna wash your hands? Bubba, why would I wash my hands? I'm a girl. I'm just naturally clean. At that moment, I realized that this girl had no sense of hygiene or anything. And me, I was just so grossed out to the point where I just didn't want to be anywhere near her. But let's just say things went from gross to ultimately disgusting, because what happens next, I gotta say, really freaks me out. I remember it was super late at night and it was around 10:30 at night. Now me, usually my bedtime was at 10 o'clock back when I was in grade 5. So I remember I went upstairs, I went to my room, and I basically started laying down and getting ready for sleeping. But as I was laying down getting ready to sleep, I remember out of nowhere my babysitter ends up walking into my room. She walks into my room and looks at me and says, oh, Bubba,
I was just wondering, do you want like some company? I remember I looked at her really confused and I said, no, why? Is everything okay? No, it's just, I can't really sleep by myself. At that moment, I was really confused because I'm like, wait, does this girl want to do the devil's tango with me? Like, what in the world's happening? And then one thing led to another. She ended up getting under my blanket with me and laying down beside me and passing out. At that moment, I was super annoyed because not only did this girl stink of anchovies, but she was just super disgusting. And I just couldn't sleep and I just felt like really weird. And also, what kind of babysitter does this? I remember after a while, like 20 minutes went by and I was still wide awake. She was passed out dead and I'm just laying there thinking this could not get any worse. But guess what? It ended up getting way worse because out of nowhere, I ended up looking to the side and I saw she ended up moving her like peach a little bit and she ended up releasing the loudest fart sound ever in my bed under the blanket. At that moment, I remember when she moved the blanket a bit around after that crazy fart, I ended up basically getting a whole whiff of what was coming out of under my blanket. And I'm not joking, my eyes started to water. I was so grossed out. And I remember I really just wanted to get out of there. So I ended up getting up and I actually ended up sleeping on my living room couch just because I could not breathe in my room anymore. I remember the next morning came by and I remember she ended up walking up to me on the couch and she asked me, Bubba, why'd you pass out on the couch? Is everything okay? I looked at her and I just kind of rolled my eyes at her and I went upstairs to brush my teeth. But as for this babysitter, well, one thing I was right about, she did not brush her teeth. And I remember she ended up basically sitting on my couch and basically was ultimately disgusting. I will say though, when my parents finally got home, things were a lot better because obviously she ended up leaving. I told my parents, never ever get that disgusting babysitter again. They looked at me confused, but I knew what I was talking about. Honestly, if you guys don't want a babysitter like this and just fall for more embarrassing stories, peace out, guys.